All right, so this is a very personal and important video to me on the subject of hypothyroidism, thyroid issues, Hashimoto's. Okay, I've been wanting to do a very full, complete video on this for a while because I have personal reality, very much lots of experience and understanding with this subject, and I've helped a lot of people with this subject. And it's something that I know can be handled, can be treated, can be turned around, can be managed, and can be reversed in many, many instances. But it is extremely important that it is managed, it is addressed, it's not ignored, and it is handled properly. On this video, I'm going to have notes because there's just so many things and I didn't want to forget anything important. So the first thing I want to kind of explain is the thyroid itself. So the thyroid is the gland that's here. I'm not going to get into the diagrams and the blah, 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 because I just don't have the time, the bandwidth, or the resources to do that much. But you can Google it and look up a picture of it. But it's a little butterfly-shaped hormone that sits right here, okay? When you get into a situation where you're at either hypo or hypo being too much thyroid, too little, hypo, too little, hyper, too much thyroid, this can wreak a lot of havoc on your system. Your thyroid gland is essentially the master gland for your metabolism, and that is a statement that has a lot more meaning than one might think. The hormones that your thyroid releases determines the production output of every cell in your body to a large degree, and your mitochondria and your energy production. And it's not just like, oh, I'm going to be lacking energy if I don't have it. No, it's not that simple. We're talking about blood and bone production. We're talking about cardiovascular monitoring and control. We're talking about, hair loss or not, brain fog or not. We're talking about a lot of different things. Hypothyroidism can cause your heart rate to slow too much. That can be very detrimental to your heart. Hypothyroidism can result in your body not properly dealing with LDL cholesterol, resulting in you having too much, which can increase your risk for heart disease, heart attack, etc. Hypothyroidism can wreak havoc on your blood flows, blood supply, like, you're not getting enough, you don't have a lot of energy, brain fatigue, brain fog, etc. Hyperthyroidism can have the pendulum swing the other way. You get bulging eyes, you get massive sweating, you can have major tachycardia episodes. Like, it can be dangerous. And fundamentally, your basal body temperature, your basic body temperature, is monitored by your thyroid and your metabolism. So if you don't have enough thyroid, or if you have too much, it can actually kill you, and that's not a joke. Like, you actually need to sustain a decent range of this hormone in your body to function properly. It also causes weight gain or massive weight loss. Weight gain for the hypothyroid, weight loss for the hyperthyroid. Your body's just burning too much energy and just crazy waste. It has to do with your bowel function. A slowed bowel function can absolutely cause other issues. You can have bad microbiome start to develop. You start retaining toxicity, et cetera, et cetera. Like, it affects your entire system at every level in some way, is what I'm trying to say. The thyroid, what it does is it essentially produces a hormone using iodine. Okay, so your thyroid produces a hormone called T4, and then working in relation to your liver and the cells themselves, that's T4, which is just a certain compound of iodine, essentially, gets then turned into T3. T3 is the thyroid hormone that's actually used. whereas T4 is sort of the storage or the raw material, if you will. So yeah, so T4 has 4 iodine atoms. T3 has 3 iodine atoms, just to give you the exact specifics. T4 is the weaker storage form. T3 is the more active form. So just looking at my notes for you. And the main job of T4 is to supply the tissues with sort of an extra storage. Like T4 floating around in your system is like, if it's needed, it's there, and the tissues can then use it. But when it's turned into T3, that's actually when it's used in cellular metabolism, oxygen use, and mitochondrial function. Okay, just to give you the exact specifics and datums on that. The the thyroid also works in conjunction with your parathyroid, which is a hormone, a gland in the back of your thyroid. And the two are kind of like the yin and yang on calcium, if you will. So basically, the thyroid is, yeah, it produces a hormone that lowers calcium in the blood, and the parathyroid is a hormone the parathyroid produces a hormone that increases calcium in the blood. So the thyroid produces a hormone that lowers it. The parathyroid increases it. The parathyroid also signals the kidneys to release D3, or vitamin D, not D3 as in an active form of D3. Okay. And between the two of them, they also balance your calcium levels in your body. So they're also critical to maintaining your cardiovascular system and not having any too much calcium in your bloodstream, et cetera, et cetera. They really together, the thyroid helps act as a calcium balancer. Okay. Um, and so I'm hoping you're kind of getting the idea, but the thyroid essentially, I'll tell you all the systems that it will affect. Okay. This is just a summary. You can get, so it can affect your brain and your nerves, your heart, your guts, your hormones, your muscle and your bones, your immune system, your skin, your hair, your liver, your kidneys, your HRV, your metabolic rate, your weight, your heart rate, your mood, okay, your menstrual cycles, your GI motility, your body temperature, already mentioned, your LDL cholesterol, your muscles, muscle waste, if you don't get enough thyroid, for example, et cetera, et cetera. So I kind of wanted to lay this out on the line and put it in perspective because when I first got diagnosed, so I have Hashimotos and hyperthyroidism. And when I first got diagnosed, it was 2017. There was a couple things that I kind of have been able to pinpoint that are probable cause. One, that was a very stressful time period for me. Okay, like that period was stressful. And I'd had a lot of stress around even prior to that, for years prior to that, but that era was stressful for me. As well, when I was a teenager, I was having really bad periods and I was put on birth control to handle my bad periods because they would take me out. I would be out of commission for a day or two, and I felt awful. Okay. And unfortunately, being a young teenager and listening to the adults and the doctors, I took it at face value and I thought, okay, great, quick fix, take a pill, I'm good, right? And it did handle the symptoms, but no one ever that symptom anyway, but no one ever explained to me the consequences of messing with your female hormone levels and the potential repercussions of hypothyroidism, okay, and Hashimoto's. So that is a real, I kick myself for that one. On top of the fact that no one ever mentioned diet change. Like, honestly, I look back at it, I'm like, I wish I knew now, or I knew then what I know now. I am so much more trained and aware and knowledgeable on this. And if I just changed my diet, that would have handled it. But I didn't know that at the time. So anyhow, at the time I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's, I didn't know what that meant. It meant nothing to me. I didn't actually have symptoms at the time. I was very healthy, very fit, running regularly, exercising daily. I felt great. I was actually at the prime of my physical health. So I took it with a grain of salt, and I was unfortunately a bit irresponsible in that I didn't get an understanding of it or what it meant. I was told to take, I was given thyroid medication at the time, and I was like, I'm not taking it, which I don't actually regret. But what I do regret is not changing my diet, and no one ever went over that with me. Not really. So I had no idea that you can correct or rebalance things with diet. And fast forward, years later is when I started having symptoms, okay? So the problem with neglecting this is it gets worse. It doesn't just go away. Once you have Hashimoto's specifically, oh, I should explain Hashimoto's. So thyroid problems can be in and of themselves, but most of them are actually as a result of Hashimoto's. And Hashimoto's is where you have antibodies in your body that are attacking your thyroid, and that is basically your thyroid is being attacked constantly by the body, and it's degenerating from damage, which means it's not producing enough hormones to keep up with the needs of your body. So that is a specific form of hypothyroidism caused by autoimmunity, which is actually the problem of the gut and your diet and toxins in your environment. It's not a thyroid issue. Your thyroid is actually fine. There's nothing wrong with your thyroid. Your thyroid is under a full-blown attack from your system, and therefore it's not able to operate properly. So that's why when I was diagnosed with this, I'm a little bit looking back on it going, this is what's wrong with the medical system. Nobody said, hey, you need to change your diet. Nobody ever went over with me leaky gut. No one ever went over with me, the what is causing it, that in the things I'm eating and the things I'm doing that could be contributing to this. So it's just, here, take a pill. And of course that to me didn't make any sense, because it was like, I don't believe in just taking a pill for the sake of replacing something your body's supposed to be doing. I'm very much a believer that you should give the body the materials it needs to fix itself. So it was an incomplete handling and a real bad handling. And unfortunately, I didn't handle it well either. And at the time was very untrained and didn't have any real idea of what was wrong. So when you have Hashimoto's, if you don't address this, it doesn't just go away. It's not like, oh, I'm gonna, change my lifestyle and maybe, like, I don't know, think happy thoughts or just ignore it and it'll pass. This is not like, oh, you have a funny pain one day and it'll go away. Like, that's not at all how autoimmune works. Once you have autoimmune, unfortunately, once you have those antibodies, you have those antibodies, period. Your immune system is designed that way, meaning it once it fights something, it remembers it, and it will keep remembering it if it keeps being reminded of it. So if you keep eating or you keep doing the thing that is triggering your immune system, it will keep attacking your body, and it will keep, it's like a vicious circle, a vicious cycle. It cannot be ignored, and I cannot stress that, because the mistake I made was thinking, I'm fine, I don't feel wrong, there's nothing wrong, I'm doing okay, whatever. I'm gonna ride this. It will go away. It will clear up. It will sort itself out. Wrong. That's not how Hashimoto's works. That's not how Hashimoto's works. So I just wanted to emphasize that, because I made that mistake. So I'm just trying to spare anyone else from making that mistake. Okay. And in terms of autoimmune is very simply primarily leaky gut. Now, there can be genes and other factors that make you more susceptible. You can do things like birth control or hormone replacement therapy that can make you more susceptible. There are things that can open that door, but diet is a crucial component to this, because essentially you have junctions in your stomach that keep things that shouldn't be going into the system from going in, and only pass through the things that your body actually needs. And what can happen in Hashimoto's or autoimmune is proteins go through the gut that should not, and go into the blood system, and your system sees these as enemies, goes to attack them, and develops antibodies against them. And unfortunately, in some cases, these proteins are very similar looking to your thyroid tissue or other tissues of your body. So in autoimmune, that basic concept is the same concept. So your tissues it mistakes with the foreign tissues or foreign proteins that it was fighting, and it becomes A equals A, and it gets confused, and your body starts attacking your own body in the confusion to try to attack this foreign particle that shouldn't be there. That's really a simplified version of what's happening. And to give you kind of a datum of comparable magnitude, your stomach is the only real barrier between you and the outside world besides your skin. Okay, so your skin has a certain job, but in terms of most things that enter your body go through your mouth when you eat, so either drink or eat. A lot of stuff gets put in there that your body has to sort through and extract just the stuff that's important and get rid of the stuff that isn't. And what happens in leaky gut syndrome is the junctions start to break open up. And on top of it, your microbiome, which are the good bugs, which are also working to kill bad pathogens and get rid of, things that shouldn't be there and eat things that your body can't deal with and doesn't metabolize. They get disrupted when you have a bad diet, or you're doing things that are, or eating things that are not good, or you're not balancing your microbiome, or you're not supporting your microbiome. They are another layer of security above the mucosal layer above your lining, if that makes sense. So you have the microbiome, you have your mucosal layer in your stomach, and you have the actual lining of your stomach. And between these layers of defense, you have a good defense if it's healthy. But you start breaking those down, and before you know it, you have problems. And if you can take an analogy of like the the gut lining is a cell thick between the outside world, meaning your stomach. Your stomach is really the outside world if you think about it. It's not, when something goes in your stomach, it's not actually in your body per se yet. It's not in your bloodstream. Okay, so the barrier between that, the outside world, i.e. your stomach area, and your bloodstream is one cell thick. It's very, very thin. But in comparison, a cell you could almost, as an analogy, think of as like a soccer field, and a protein particle is almost like the size of a soccer ball. And you're only supposed to be able to absorb amino acids or peptides, not a full protein. So amino acids and peptides is going to be about the size of a tennis ball or a pea or a marble, like very, very tiny compared to even a soccer ball. So you can imagine how big the junctions between your stomach are getting to let a soccer ball through when it's only supposed to let a pea or a marble through. Do you get the idea? I'm trying to give you an analogy so you can kind of think with it. But that is what's happening. And when those foreign proteins get into your body, that's where you got autoimmune. There's certain very well-known evils that directly contribute to this problem. Bad seed oils, vegetable oils, gluten of any type, of any kind, okay? Gluten is a big factor because gluten releases a specific thing that signals those junctions to open, just so you know. So gluten is a bad actor in this whole situation of autoimmune. Dairy, unfortunately, is inflammatory, and most people with Hashimoto's or autoimmune can't do dairy. Some can, and I mean not even A2 dairy, like no dairy in most cases, not everybody. But dairy, because it's inflammatory, and because the proteins of dairy are actually very similar to the proteins in your thyroid. Funny enough. So yeah, it gets a little bit confused. And the proteins of gluten as well are also a little bit similar to your thyroid. So your thyroid, your body, they tend to confuse the body a lot. The other thing is highly processed foods, anything that's going to disrupt your microbiome and contribute to, uh, dysbiosis and out of balanceness, and weaken the mucosal layer and open those junctions. Sugars, refined sugars, are really very detrimental, and really throw your microbiome out, et cetera, et cetera. So diet is a very critical aspect to this, and in terms of creating it. Diet isn't the only thing. You can get mercury poison and other toxicity that can contribute to wearing this down and creating this problem. So I don't want to say diet's the only thing, but it's such a massive part of it. And it's a massive part of the solution too. So now to the good thing. Hashimoto's and autoimmune can be managed, and it can't be cured per se. It's not like you can make it so that you don't have the antibodies anymore and you're good. but you can manage it so that you can keep that autoimmune attack to a bare minimal to none through diet and proper nutrition and stuff, and supporting your thyroid. And I have known many people, including myself, who have done that to the point that they can come off of thyroid supportive hormones. That is dependent upon whether or not your thyroid has reduced, how much damage has been done to it, because there's a point of no return. Once you've let that damage accumulate, which is the other critical reason why you need to handle it and address it immediately, if you let that damage keep going on that thyroid, it will scar up to the point that it can't regenerate and it can't heal. And at that point, it will not be able to regenerate and go back to being able to provide the full support your body needs. And you are just going to have to supplement and get over it. And if you keep letting it going, eventually your thyroid gets completely destroyed and you are basically have to take thyroid prescription all the time to keep your thyroid levels or you will die. So like there's a point of extreme dead end, not no pun intended. Um, so you do want to handle this and you do want to change it and you do want to manage it, but you must be disciplined and you must just accept or confront, I should say, because this is not an apathetic thing, it's a causative thing. You must confront what is actually going on and get your own knowledge and be responsible for it and really understand it so that you can then be causative about it and make causative decisions in the direction of supporting your thyroid and supporting your diet and supporting your body and not exacerbating or adding to or continuing to inflame or keep this storm going in your system. Please also note, one autoimmune can lead to another. So if you have Hashimotos and you don't change your diet, you keep going about it and ignoring it, and you just take thyroid hormone to keep your thyroid levels out while your thyroid and body is constantly inflamed with autoimmune attack, that too has detrimental effects because you can develop other autoimmune, rheumatoid arthritis. Like the autoimmune can become other autoimmune. So it doesn't stop there. And I'm just saying all this because I really want to emphasize you must do something about your diet. It's not like a nice thing to do, and it's not because, Myra said so. It's a fact. You must change what you're doing and get rid of and eliminate the things that are causing your autoimmune. If you don't let your body heal, it gets far worse. And the consequences of having autoimmune at all are bad enough, but it will just keep getting worse from there if you don't address it. So I know this is a long video and it is long, but I really wanted to cover this thoroughly and I hope that I've done it justice. If there's anything that I've not covered or your questions on, I've mostly concentrated on hypothyroidism, but I know hyper is also a thing. Hyperthyroid is a little bit different, and I don't want to get too much into it in this video because it does have a slightly different handling. And I don't want to cover that here. It's really its own video and its own thing. It's less common. Hypothyroidism is by far the more common situation, but the diet concept and everything else still applies. And one more note, when your thyroid is creating thyroid hormone, there's two things it needs. It needs iodine and it needs selenium. So if you're deficient in iodine, that is a problem. At the same time, if you're highly inflamed from Hashimoto's and your antibodies are super high, you need to watch it on the iodine. So there's a point where you need to get the inflammation down before you start throwing iodine into the picture, because iodine can add to the problem if you do it at the wrong time. But at the same time, you must get enough iodine, and iodine is very safe. I am speaking from experience. High iodine is actually very safe in the right context if you are managing the autoimmune aspect well, because it supports your thyroid, and your thyroid needs iodine because T3 and T4 is iodine. That is what it is. So you need iodine. If you don't get enough iodine, your thyroid suffers, you will get hypothyroidism and you will get a goiter. Your thyroid, you start getting a goiter from not enough iodine. And you also need selenium, because selenium is critical in protecting the thyroid from the toxic result of producing thyroid hormone. So there's a toxic, I don't want to get into the technical woods here, but There's a toxic off effect of producing thyroid hormone that damages the thyroid if it doesn't have selenium. So you must do selenium. You must do D3 and K2 with it to support your hormones and your thyroid and your immune system in general, etc. So those are some critical supplements that I just wanted to mention while we're talking on the subject of the thyroid, because they're very important to healing and to supporting it. And yeah, I'll probably have to do a whole new, a whole separate video on supplements, but and stuff like that. But anyhow, I hope this has been helpful. And let me know if you have any questions or if there's anything I omitted or if there's anything else I can cover. Let me know.